Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me live today on Unveiling the Truth 333. I am Robin Hyatt, and I have Barb Shupe here, which I'm very excited to have her here. She has been having some cell problems, so she drove around till she could find some good links. So we hope that she can stay with us. We will pray that everything will be good on that end. Barb wrote a book, and I followed Barb for a long time. And so I'm a fan. And so I am coming to this podcast as a fan of Barb's. And I do want to dedicate this podcast to Tom Cantrell. And I didn't actually really realize, and we can maybe talk about that, how much of a mentor he was to you. I know he was a super kind man. I was going to go to it was a conference up by you, and he was either in charge of the tickets or something. And so I bought a ticket, talked to him on the phone. Everything had to be by the phone. And he was just super nice. And then I couldn't get off work. And so then I had to call him and say, I can't make it. And he goes, okay, well, I can reimburse you. I go, no. Just give my ticket to somebody else. So I'm donating it. And he goes, are you sure? And so we talked for a little while. And he was just the nicest man. And so we lost him just recently. And now he's walking with the Sasquatch. And so he's having the best time of his life, I'm sure. So,
Absolutely. Yes.
so I'd like to dedicate this to him. Also, I like to do just a little memory lane for me with Barb here. And so I'm going to read just my little synopsis. It's a little bit of a different intro than you've probably ever had before, Barb.
Okay.
So 13 years ago, I discovered a video titled The Bigfoots Are Here, featuring Barb and Gabby, which was her doggie. The video itself was almost entirely black, focused slowly on sounds rather than visual. Later videos, I was captivated by the lush forest of the Cascade Mountains, green trees, vibrant flowers, and large ferns. I just loved that. Barb and Gabby were true boots on the ground investigators exploring the mysteries of the wilderness. The entire time I watched, I found myself wishing I could join them in their adventure. In 2016, a show emerged called Gabby's Bigfoot Friends. I immediately fell in love with it. Gabby, which is the puppy dog, personal interactions with the Bigfoots, as well as the unusual activity around Barb's cabin. Then Barb started videotaping the campouts, where especially were really memorable to me. And they actually were kind of training for me because I actually learned what you were looking for, how to look for the visuals. And it was filled with unique experiences and investigations. What was intriguing to me was including finding handprints on cars, witnessing strange orbs, and hearing mysterious sounds. These moments brought an exciting sense of discovery to every episode. In 2019, Barb released an episode on her channel titled UFO Over Camp, adding another layer of intrigue to their adventures. Among all their explorations, my absolute favorite, Barb, were the gifting spots. And of course, the episodes with the pies. I loved the pies. And I thought, did you make those pies or did you buy those pies?
I gotta
That
make
was so
KFC.
interesting to me was the pies. I don't know why, but I mean, if I was following you hiking, I would have waited until you left and I would have taken the pies. These small but meaningful details made the journey even more special and unforgettable. So now Barb's channel is called Barb Shupe and Goldie, correct? And
Well,
that's her YouTube
watching
channel.
with Barb and Goldie. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And this is the book that she just brought out. Long time coming. I was just telling her that I was so excited that she brought this out because we get a little bit of backstage. You watch the videos, but this has a little bit of more information of what's going on behind the scenes. So I'm very happy about that. So welcome, Barb.
Hi, it's good to be here. That was a wonderful introduction.
Well, I just love you. And so I do you mind if I ask you some questions to start
No,
off?
go
Is
right
that
ahead.
okay?
That'd be great.
So I know one of the chapters, I don't want to give too much of your book away, but one of your first part in the book is why I don't knock on trees. And can
Yes.
you explain that a little bit for our audience, why you don't like to knock on trees?
Well, back in the beginning, I didn't really know much of anything about Sasquatch or what they were about, how to interact with them or find them or anything. I was clueless other than, a few TV shows that I saw growing up, and the Finding Bigfoot show was what really started um, giving me information on what to do. So, you see those guys go out and knock on trees. You watch YouTube videos. You see people go out and knock on trees. This was 13 years ago,
Yeah.
and so I thought, what better way to get their attention? I knew they were out there, and I wanted to record something. So, what better way than to go out and knock on a tree? And the first time I did that, it didn't go over very well. Yeah, you can read all the details in the book, but I wound up
Okay.
drawing in 3 Sasquatches. One was pretty much very upset with me, and the other two, I think, were just observing, but one was not happy, and he
Yeah.
made sure that I knew that. And so I made a vow to myself and to them that I wasn't going to knock on trees anymore.
Yeah.
And I kept that for about a year. And then one night I thought to myself, what the heck? What's it gonna hurt? Let's just give it a try. So I walked back out in the woods up the trail again, and I knocked on a tree, and it was a different time of year, and it wasn't, the first time it was a frozen tree, so it just kind of echoed out into the forest, and this time it wasn't. It just was a thud.
Oh,
And nothing happened, and I sat there in the dark by myself for a half an hour waiting, and nothing happened. So I went back to the cabin, and then the next morning I went up, and that tree that I had knocked on had been pushed down over the trail.
no
So that
way.
was
Oh,
that confirmed for me that just wasn't cool. Just don't
yeah.
do that. If you want to communicate with them, go out and talk to them. It works just
Yeah.
fine. So yeah.
Yeah. That is
But
so
there's a lot more detail to that in the book.
yes. But that's
I'm
scary. You
just
went out by yourself at night and you knocked on a tree and then you waited there. You're brave.
Well, I used to go out in the woods and do a lot of things in the middle of the night. I just go out there and I'd turn on the iPod and just sing Love Shack and do a dance, just to,
Oh,
just
that's
to
right. I read that in your book.
entertain them, and then just go back to the cabin. In the
Yeah.
beginning, I used to do pretty much anything I could think of to get their attention. I can remember going out in absolute downpours, torrential downpours, and just sitting on a stump in the woods in the dark, hoping that the pounding rain on my phone was going to block any sounds that I heard. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think the determination paid off
Yeah.
eventually. So, yeah.
And you actually, I think then, if I remember correctly, just even from your videos, that you were out hiking, and you actually saw a visual of one to the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. That was I think something that was completely intentional, and it was meant to be. There were reasons that I was out there that day, and
Mhm.
it put me in the right place at the right time. And
Mhm.
on the way up, we had heard this strange talking, and at that point on my journey, I had heard that the Sasquatch could talk, but I still thought of them as just another form of wildlife, and wildlife can't talk, so I didn't put a lot of stock in that.
Yeah.
And then I heard it myself, and it was bizarre. I didn't even at that time I really didn't even associate it with them until farther down. Um, but went on up to the top of the hill, came back down, and I heard some disembodied whistles. I mean, very human-like whistles on a part of the trail where the view was wide open and I could see there was nobody there. And
Yeah.
I chalked that up to elk. And then
Oh,
came down the hill a little farther and went around a switchback, and the whole herd of elk was right there. And they came running down off the hill, crossed the road behind me. And when they came behind me and I turned and looked and saw them going this way, there was uh, my first thought was gorilla standing in the
Yeah.
wood just out on the other side of them. And my brain wasn't, even though I was out looking for Sasquatch, my brain
Yeah.
wasn't ready to make that connection. It took a few
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah.
And then he turned and he started following the elk. And, it's like my brain went from gorilla? We don't have gorillas. Oh my God, it's Bigfoot. And then, I knew it wasn't going to last very long. I knew that, it was going to be a very brief experience. So I did everything I could to just memorize what I was seeing.
Mhm.
And yeah, he was behind the last leaves of the vine maple, which is a low growing tree. And so I could see him from about the shoulders up very clearly, the head and the shoulders and everything. And I kept waiting, thinking one more step and he's going to come out from behind those leaves and I'll have full view. And he took that last step and and he wasn't there anymore. He just stepped
Yeah.
behind an invisible curtain.
And
So
you did draw a picture. There's a picture in the
yeah,
book of your and that's your first experience, correct?
yep, that was it.
That's that.
I had other things had been happening. I had found a footprint. I had heard vocals, but that was my first real sighting. Well, no, I wasn't. That was the first sighting when I knew what I was looking at. How's that?
Oh, okay. So, how long were you living in your cabin at that time? How long have you been living up there before this sighting?
um, Well, I grew up in Enumclaw, and then I moved to Greenwater after I gave up working for a logging company as a night watchman. So I did that for 3 years, and that put me back in Greenwater about 1992. And
Okay.
it was about 93 that I met, I was living with my husband there at the cabin, and that was when I saw the one jumping out of the treetop. He dropped straight down, hit a limb, bounced over the roof of the cabin to another tree, dropped to a lower limb on that tree, back over the roof, and
Wow.
bounced off the corner of the porch and was just gone.
Yeah.
And for years, in the back of my mind, I always thought baby Sasquatch, but that seemed ridiculous, because it was just a black ball of hair. There was no
Yeah.
arms, no legs, no tail, no wings. And by process of elimination, I always went back to baby Sasquatch. But I mean, seriously, who has little Sasquatches in the trees where they live? And
Yeah.
where's
Yeah.
mom? There was, it
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Where's the big one?
I trying to figure it out. That was what I always, just because there was no other option. But
Yeah.
still, I couldn't accept that. And it wasn't until the day that I saw the big Sasquatch on the hill following the elk that I accepted that that's what it was that I had seen. So I'd been having experiences for a long time. I just wasn't connecting the dots. So
Did that Sasquatch look at you? Did it see you?
he did. When I first turned and focused on him, while my brain was still trying to process
Yeah.
gorilla, we had eye contact.
Oh, you did?
And
Okay.
yeah, and then, but it was very brief. And then he just turned and from that point on, he was looking at the elk. He was focused on following them. And even though I was standing there, I'm looking at him like this. He's walking this way. I'm looking at him and he's looking that way. To me, that was part of what made me feel okay about because he wasn't looking at me. He was
Yeah.
focused on the elk. So
Yeah.
and it crossed my mind while I'm looking at him that, should I be afraid, and in my mind, I'm thinking, if they were going to get me, they've had decades to do it and they
Yeah.
haven't yet. So, I think I'm okay. And he's looking at the elk, not me. So we're good. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I'd have let myself be afraid, then, my entire life as I knew it would have been over. I wouldn't have ever been able to step outside again or do any of the things that I love to do. If
Yeah.
I'm too afraid to live in the woods. How do I live in the woods?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly. And even with the other animal, if you're going to be
yeah.
scared of bear, you know, other things, then you just can't live there. So you just
Well,
have to.
I'm a little uncomfortable when we went to Montana knowing there were grizzlies there.
Yeah.
I like being at the top of the food chain here, knowing that the black bears are going to run the other way. So,
Yeah. Um, the other one, now I thought this was kind of remarkable. That you have a river by your cabin, correct?
mhm.
And then one day, I don't know if you saw Sasquatch or what the whole event was, but you found a chunk of amethyst crystal in the water in the river. Was it by the
Uh-huh.
bank or
Well, that's actually happened a couple of times now, but
really?
I think the one you're talking about that I wrote about in the book, I used to do a lot of rock hounding. This would have
Okay.
been around little more than 20 years ago. Um,
Okay.
so I'd go out and, as the season progressed and the water levels dropped, I'd be out there, just scanning the water's edge, looking for, petrified wood and agates and, whatever I could find that, cool
Yeah.
rocks.
Yeah.
And by the end of summer, the river gets down to one narrow little channel, and
Okay.
it's on the far side. There's big rocky beaches 2/3 of the riverbed, but this one little deep channel still runs. And I went out there one day and there was a big log, like with the root wad and everything. The root wad is in the
Oh,
middle of
that's
the
right.
river
That's right. Yeah.
on the high ground, and the other end is up on the bank. So it effectively created a bridge to cross that deep channel of the river there.
Oh,
And I
okay.
looked at that thinking, know, what the heck? Where did this come from? It clearly didn't wash down overnight because there was not enough water overnight. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the roots are on high ground here,
Yeah.
and then in the middle of the river. And then while I'm standing there pondering that, I look down, and right there in just maybe a foot from the water's edge, something caught my eye, and I reached into the water and pulled up a chunk of amethyst.
Oh my
So
gosh. I
yeah.
would have just went, ah,
I know. I was like,
wow.
I didn't know
Yeah.
which to be more stunned about, was this
Yeah.
where this tree came from, or the chunk of amethyst I just pulled up. Because I had heard that people had found amethyst in the river before, but that was the first one
Really?
I'd ever seen. Yeah,
Do you think
yeah,
that was a gift?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
And in
awesome.
hindsight, I think that all these things that are intentional, they're all part of the path and part of the journey and part of the learning process to move forward. You have to go through this to get to that. You have to be able to wrap your mind around the things that are in the beginning before you can even begin to process what's coming afterwards. So that's part of the
That's true.
journey.
That's true. And you also, I think you should be praised more so for this, is that you captured a cloaker on video. That was like,
Twice, twice.
oh, you did it twice? I've only
Yes.
seen one. Where's
Well,
the
you've
other
seen the
one?
eyes video, right? With the glowing eyes.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, you're going to have to look at that because it was filmed
Okay.
10
Do you
years
remember what
later.
year that one was?
Well, yeah, that was just 2024
Oh, that was
March.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think actually you do have that in your book. And if you want to talk, I have, let's see. Now I want to talk about your fairy experience. I didn't know fairies were true, but I think
I
they
didn't
might be.
either.
Huh?
Bigfoot's always been my thing, but when fairies fly at your camera, they become your thing too. So,
I know. I know. You have it in your book. So you guys, I have to buy the book if you want a picture of a fairy. So the you saw I read about the eyes, and that's what I saw. So I'll tell you quickly my experience. This is my
okay.
second experience. So I live here in Boise, Idaho. I'm in a duplex. I'm on a corner lot. I have a end street light, straight street light, and I have this huge tree somehow right by the house. And so I always get scared in windstorms thinking that thing's going to kill me. If it falls on the house, that thing is so huge. I think it's a box elder tree. It's like stories and stories high. Um, and so it was about 80 degrees. I have a window that looks out to the tree. So I love looking at the tree. I just love looking at the tree. And I talk to the tree, blah, blah, blah. And so I had my window all the way open, and I had a little Yorkie sitting by me, and I was on the computer facing the window because I always face that window. And I was looking down, and then I just had this presence that something was looking at me. And so when I looked up at the window with just the screen, I saw, like you said, a gorilla head. It was a head, and it was only from here up, and it was totally highlighted on the outside because I had the street light. So it framed the edge of it. So you could see that there is hair. And then of course you can't move. You just look at you go last thing you thought you'd see that at your window. So it was from here up, and then the eyes went on like car lights. I call them like car lights. And the lights were so bright coming out of its eyes, because then the whole eye becomes a light. You don't see a pupil or
Yeah.
anything.
Mhm.
That I saw the cheekbones were flesh, and it was like a black Sasquatch. So I saw the light illuminated its face that was coming out of its eyes. So then I could see the nose and the cheeks, but it was only from here of the window. And I was paralyzed. And then all I remember then is it it went down. It just went down like this from the window. And once the eyes broke from my eyes, then I woke up. And then I stood up and I ran to my bedroom because I was scared. Then all the fear came in. So I was scared. So I ran into my bedroom, and then I thought, well, I got to shut my bedroom or the window that thing was looking at. It was just a screen. It could come into my house. And my dog is just slept through the whole thing. And then I realized when I looked at my computer, I lost time. I lost over an
Wow.
hour of time.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So I was in connection with that Sasquatch for over an hour of time. Then the strange thing happening was that tree, always drops all these little twigs. So when I went out the next morning, because I was not going to go out that night to look at it, there's all these little X's all around, all these
Oh,
twigs
that's
were in X's.
awesome.
And then right at the
Wow.
window, there is a twig that's an X. And they still to this day make an X by that window.
They've,
So
they've connected to you. They were reading you and they were connected, and that's a sign of friendship. That's
yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah, it was
Congratulations. That's an awesome experience.
yeah, and it was close. It was only 5 steps away. I mean, I was that close. I didn't smell anything. There was no smell. And then all I could keep thinking is, how does no one see this big black hairy thing walking to my house in the neighborhood on a corner lot where there's traffic going both ways? How does no
Yeah.
one see it? And I thought
Well,
maybe it came out of the tree. Maybe they
maybe.
use trees as portals, or it's cloaked because you proved cloaking.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if they can use the trees. I know that portals are real. I've seen them. I don't know how they function or where they come from or anything like that, but I know they're real. I know that
yeah,
they either can become orbs and travel in orb
uh,
form, or they at least go hand in hand with orbs. I've
yeah,
been taught that they do become orbs. I haven't actually seen them become one yet, but that experience of seeing the little one jumping out of the top of the tree over my cabin all those years ago,
yeah.
he was in a ball form. He was like a big black hairy ball. And have you seen the Flash of Beauty movies?
No.
Well, you're gonna have to check those
Oh,
out. There's one
okay.
of them. There's these guys in Oregon that one of the experiences they talked about was seeing coming around the corner of the road and seeing a huge Sasquatch shrink in size, and then it became a ball, and then it turned into a cube and flew away.
Wow.
Now, that that in itself, is kind of a crazy story, but you know what? There's a lot of crazy stories that happen around the Sasquatch. And what
Yeah.
I take away from that is, first of all, when I was in the blues, I saw a 15-foot tall Sasquatch. I didn't see him come and I didn't see him go, but I got to see him while he was there.
Mhm.
And, to me, 15 feet. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that's just unbelievable. Maybe
yeah.
maybe he wasn't really 15 feet. Maybe that's what I was intended to
No, I
perceive.
think you're right.
So maybe he that was just the size he chose to be at that moment, you know? And then maybe that Sasquatch that I saw bouncing through the tops of the trees, maybe that wasn't even a little one. Maybe that was a full-grown Sasquatch who had just shrunk into a hairy ball. Maybe that hairy ball is just a stage of becoming the orb. You know,
True.
maybe it's just a different part of the transition, you know,
Yes.
something like that. So you got to remember all these little details about things about these experiences, you know, like you talk about the eyes glowing and how it lit
Oh,
his face around it.
yeah.
I've heard other people tell me that. I heard of a friend in Colorado who once saw one whose eyes lit up so bright that it was like a light in like a light bulb inside his head. His head lit
Yeah.
up. His all
Yeah.
his features became
Yeah.
lit from the inside. And you
Yeah.
know, eye reflection doesn't happen, doesn't do that. You know, this
No,
is an
that's no.
actual thing where there's a
Yeah.
light.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd think that, okay, this is just crazy. That's not possible, but it happens and it's real. And
Yeah.
the more people that tell these stories, like your experience and like my friend in Colorado, you know, all these are little points of information that have meaning and that have value. And even if they don't make sense right now, hold on to those things, lock them away for another day, because you're going to hear another story like yours, and you're going to be able to help enlighten somebody else down the road.
Yeah. 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 It was I called it car lights. It's just like someone sitting on
Yes.
their beams. And it
Yeah.
um I did have I did tell this story on my channel a long time ago. This happened a long time ago. And did have a Native American man, because I had a Sasquatch live experience when I was young at Mount Shasta. We used to go boating there. So I had an experience in Mount Shasta with a
So
red.
they've known you since you were a little girl,
Mhm. Yep,
you
and
know.
actually, I'll just tell this experience. I don't talk about it too much because I can't prove it. You know, my family can, but I mean, I can't live prove it. But I went to we were boating with three couples. We always went boating every summer in California, and so we went to Mount Shasta. And so it was everybody skis, and we all do all that stuff. And I was about 4 or 5, and I was always scared of the water. So my dad would always put this, those in the 1960s, those vests that they would put on you, and then my dad would tie like these military knots on it in case because I didn't swim. And so I always wore that the whole time. I always had that on my little body. And so I had to go to the bathroom, and we stopped at a cove to eat. And so all the women are getting ready for the sandwiches or making sandwiches. The men are getting the coolers out of the the boats, and I wanted to go potty. And mom goes, "Okay, there's some trees back here, so just go to that tree that's 3 feet away, 5 feet away, and go potty." I go, "Okay." And so I go hike up there. And then I realized, no, these people can still see me. So I want to go back farther so no one can see me go potty. That's what was in my head. So I'm walking back a little farther, not much because I was little. And then all of a sudden I was hoisted up. I was hoisted up. And then whatever grabbed me took off. And so I'm facing this way. And all I saw was the red, because it kept its hand over my face, because we were running. It was running so fast that I could hear branches breaking, and so I think it was protecting my face. So it had a gray hand, big gray hand, and then red hair. It was red, long red hair coming down off of it. And then all I remember is the breathing. It was so deep, and because it was running. And I remember telling my parents, I said, I felt like I was on a Disney ride. That's how fast we were going through the forest. And then I don't know if I thought this, but my legs were getting cut up by the twigs. So my legs were getting cut up. And I don't know if I thought, oh, my legs are hurting. So it its other hand came around and it grabbed up my body and cradled me sideways. So my whole body was pretty much cradled by it as it was running. Um, and then that made me
It heard your
turn
thoughts. Yeah.
to look sideways at it. And then I must have fainted. Then I was gone. And so they discovered I didn't come back. So my dad came to find me. They found my flip flops, but they couldn't find me. And so all three men were combing the area because they thought, well, she's like 4, so and no flip flops, so she can't go very far. And they couldn't find me. And so hours went by, and of course, no cell phones, and no way they would have to leave, to get help. And so they thought, well, we'll just keep going. So there's a cove. This one man went to this cove to see if I was in the water. Nothing was there. He turned to leave, and then he heard a splash. And when he turned back, my body was there. And then my vest that was in these military knots, my dad was in the Navy, was laying next to me. And I was floating face down. And so he went into the water and grabbed me. And he was an ambulance driver, thank goodness. And he revived me. I was only in the water for a little bit. And then he called for my dad. So the only thing was that I had the cuts on my legs from probably the branches. And then the man said that after my dad came and grabbed me and was talking to me, and I was shivering. I remember I was like in shock when I woke up. I just remember just shaking. The man looked up at the top of that cove, and he saw the red Sasquatch. He saw it standing there looking behind a tree. And then, and that's the only way we knew it was a Sasquatch. He called it a monster. This guy was petrified what he saw. And so my dad thought, how did you get your life vest off? He goes, I have a hard time getting it off. And I don't know. I don't remember anything. And so afterwards, we had cabins. So we boated back. My mom inspected me because we thought it was a man that took me, she inspected me to make sure I was okay. And there's no hospitals or anything around there. Then I remember my mom, my dad, and both men took off to find the, what is a forest ranger, to report me missing for hours. And then the man did speak up of what he saw in the forest. And that was it. My family never talked about it again. We never talked about it. Oh, Barb, I think you're frozen. Let's see.
Am I gone?
Oh, you're starting to come around. Oh, you're still a little frozen.
Am I back?
I can hear you, so you can talk. Okay.
Maybe I can move the car a little here, get
Okay.
a little better signal.
You were doing good,
It's a
and
heck
then
of
I
a
started
story.
talking, and then you went down.
Points in there that really important, Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, just keep on talking. You're not moving, but I can hear you.
Forward. You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Maybe if I move the car a little bit, I could fix the signal. It's an amazing
now
story.
you're moving. You're good.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that story. That was really amazing. And, I can't even begin to speculate on why he took you, but there was definitely some kind of a contact, some kind of a connection that was made that you've had your whole life now. That's why they came back and you was looking at you through the window, and you've probably had a lot more of them around observing you than you're actually aware of.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that he made sure you were okay, and he even, was there making sure that you were found,
Mhm.
that you were returned. I'm inclined to think that you were taken for your own safety, for your own connection, for a reason. He wasn't just kidnapping you for the sake of kidnapping you. There was
Yeah.
a reason
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah.
Maybe because it led you to where you are today.
Yeah.
That's something that I've noticed, that a lot of folks that are really into Bigfoot nowadays had an experience as a child.
Yeah.
That there was something happened. Maybe not quite that extreme, but
Yeah.
something happened that
Yeah.
created this connection in their youth. And then what happens is you grow up, and it's always in the back of your mind. And as you're getting older, other little things will pile on, and then by the time you've lived your life and your kids are raised and you got some free time to go out and look in the woods, you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've hiked in the woods, not by myself, but growing up in Washington, but I won't go by myself because I'm afraid I'll never come back. You kind of get
Uh-huh.
thinking, I don't want to be taken again. So,
Yeah. Wow.
well, actually, do you mind if we talk about Gabby?
No, that's fine. That's fine. We can talk about her.
Gabby,
Yeah.
in Sep- September, I don't know if you realize this, but I think it was was it your first cloaking event was September 11th,
Um,
2014. I think that was in
support
your book.
September, or first, that would have
Or
been,
was that
no,
your second one?
November 1st, or November
Oh,
1st, 2012 was the day that
oh,
the guy was up there following the elk.
okay.
So it was the day that we got the cloaker on camera was September 11th. So that's
Yes.
what it was. Okay.
And I thought this was very interesting because Gabby collapsed. She was 8 years old, and she collapsed on September 12th,
Yeah.
4 years later. And I was there. I was there to witness, that we lost Gabby. And I was one of the ones that painted a stone and sent it for Gabby's graveside. I sent you
Well,
one.
it's still on her grave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
I was there for the memorial. I don't know if you put it on Facebook, but you were all sitting around.
Yeah,
And
we did a live feed, when we
yeah,
placed the rocks, and Ashley
yeah,
sang a song, and
yep,
yeah, it was beautiful.
yep. Thank you for that I could participate that long distance because I have a love for animals, and she was special. I think sometimes in our lives we love dogs, we love all our dogs, and I've had one that was actually my little girl. She was my daughter. I That dog was my daughter, and because she was just different. I knew that. I went picked her up at the pound, and we had eye contact, and I said, "You're mine. You're coming home with me today."
Yeah.
And I think Gabby was one of your closest family members. And then I was lucky enough to still be there when Goldie was born.
She
And
was a
what
little
amazing that was
miracle.
an amazing story. Goldie, do you want to
Yeah.
share that at all?
Sure. Sure. Well, I think it kind of, Goldie's story begins when Gabby passed. We did the memorial, and when we had the memorial at the cabin, we had decorated the yard with all the fall leaves, all the bright colored leaves. We'd gone and picked a bunch of them off the vine maples and just made bouquets all over. And then a few days later, I discovered that the bridge over the creek next to the cabin had big leaf maple leaves stuffed into each signpost. And I mean, one of them literally had the metal pinched around the big leaf maple stem.
Wow.
you know so that was like the Sasquatch, they contributing to the saying goodbye to her. And I went out every night, and I burned some sage at Gabby's grave, and I said prayers, and I talked to the the Sasquatch and the spirits of the forest and the river and the mountains. And I thanked him for the blessing that Gabby was. And I prayed for her little soul to be looked after. And a couple of months went by, and one day it just popped into my head that I needed to have a gold dog. And, when you lose a dog, you're not ready to have another dog.
Oh, I understand. Yep.
You really need one, but you don't want one.
Yep. You don't
But
want to go through it again. Yep.
no, but I knew something in my head said, you need a gold dog. How many more dogs are you going to have in this lifetime? You've had one of all these different colors, but you've never had a gold dog. You need a gold dog before you're done. So I went to work, and this guy that lives behind the store in a cabin back there, his dog was pregnant, and he says, well, you can have one of my puppies when they're born. And I said, I knew what kind of dog he had. I thought, the dogs that live in the park back there. And I said, well, I kind of want a shepherd collie mix. And he says, well, that's perfect, because mom is a border collie and Australian shepherd.
Oh,
And I thought, oh, okay. Well, my husband likes labs, and I'm just trying to think of reasons why I'm not going to want your puppy. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
So Brad likes labs. Oh, well, that's great, because the dad's a lab. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I'm supposed to have a gold dog. And your dog is like black and brown with gray spots. And, there's all of her puppies that she's had before. There's a black one. They're all spotted. There's no gold dogs. There's no chance of having a gold dog. Okay, so that settles it. I'm not going to be having one of your puppies. So then, I don't know, a month goes by, the puppies are born, and he sends me a message. He says, you're not going to believe what happened. He says his dog had 11 puppies, and two of them were
11.
stillborn. 11.
Oh,
Well, actually 10, two were stillborn, and he thought she was done. They let her out, and that was the last time we had a huge dump of snow like we just had. There was, I believe, 5 feet of snow around his cabin.
oh,
So he
wow.
lets the dog out to go potty. She's coming back in, and there's this huge plank door that's 3-4 inches thick that he's letting her in. And he said it was just maybe an inch from being completely closed. And some little tiny sound outside got his attention, and he went out and looked, and there was a little gold puppy out in the snow. So that was Goldie.
That was
So
Goldie. And she was born
I
outside.
got my little miracle. She was born out. Yeah, she dropped in the snow. So she was my little miracle. And out of
And
all the puppies, yeah, she was the only one that was gold. All the rest were either black or black with spots, and just
yep.
like mom.
I think you did an episode where you showed that the mom with all the puppies, and then there's this one gold puppy.
My
And that
little
was
miracle.
meant for you. I remember watching that episode going, and I commented on that episode. I found my comment on that episode. And I went, that has meaning. That means something.
It really does. It really does. That was all part of a plan, and whoever's on the other side of the veil, whether we've got our angels or it's the Sasquatch or our ancestors, whoever it is that's looking out for us on the other side of the veil has a plan. And if we listen and we follow our path and stay true to ourselves, I think
Yeah.
that, they're helping us out every chance they can. They're looking out
Yeah.
for us. So.
And with me being an intuitive, and my past is I started with cold cases. I saw people that were deceased, started in Spokane, and I worked with detectives on finding people in cold cases. And so that I was adopted, child of adoption. So my adopted family they didn't know what to do with me. they, they didn't even know anything about psychicness or anything like that. And what I feel, because my channel used to be called Bigfoot Whispers Hub. So I kept getting messages. And that's why I started my YouTube channel back in the day, is because I kept getting these beautiful messages from Sasquatch. I had a white Sasquatch, which I named Natil, or White Canada. I felt she was in Canada and she was transferring messages to me, and I was
Oh,
writing them down, and that's how I started my channel. And I feel from a psychic point of view is that, of course, these creatures, persons, have been around since the beginning of time. And I felt that I had like this vision where they were highly respected because they were healers and they had the energy and the adaptation to heal our little bodies. And that I see Aztec and I see Native Americans in ceremony, and then they come to the forest people and they bring gifts, and then they bring the person that needs the healing. And I think a lot of these tribes, um, ancient tribes like the Aztecs and stuff, learned shamanism, possibly that healing from the Sasquatch, what herbs to use, what spiritualism to use. But I felt that in the early days, Sasquatches were highly respected, not like today. So every time I
not
talk,
there
Barb,
to
you
be
freeze up.
monsters. Oh,
Okay, I think I can hear you.
am
So that means that
I
you need to
there?
keep talking so you don't freeze up.
Okay. Well, I make a very good point, a lot of the Native American stories that you hear talk about how, they stole children, things like that, but I
Yeah.
don't think that those things were intended as bad experiences, I mean, if they're picking up and hauling off a little kid, there's a reason for it. Or
Mm-hmm.
anybody, if they're packing up and hauling off anybody. But
Yeah.
there was trade going on up until just within 100 years ago, but the native
Yeah.
people out here on the coast, there's a camp that I was at a year ago in September where there was a couple of medicine women that were there talking about how they were literally trading with the Sasquatch up until the 50s. That's
Yeah.
what, 75 years ago?
Yeah.
So if you're communicating and trading, if they need medicine, you're going to be sharing resources when you're in a forest. You're going to learn, hey, somebody burned themselves, use this. Somebody has a
Yeah.
fever, use this. If you're having stomach problems, use this. And those are just going to be the things that are going to connect you to the earth and make you even more open and more sensitive to the energy that flows through the forest, and
True.
through the planet, and just the medicine itself, the healing and the energy that comes with it. So it's not just the plants, but the the connection of that plant and that use that's connected to everything else, if that makes sense. You see what I'm trying
No,
to
it
say?
does.
It's
It
so
does. And the energy of the
yeah,
Sasquatch, and
yeah, and
who I
those
think
are
they're going to
beautiful
find.
gifts.
Yeah. And I think they'll find soon, hopefully, they're starting to figure out that energy and vibration and frequency heals cancer inside our
Mhm.
bodies. And I
Yeah,
just think Sasquatch have that naturally,
yeah.
that they can do that naturally.
Well, they've spent their entire lives for, and not just like for a generation or two, but forever living
Mhm.
in nature, eating nothing but natural foods and drinking fresh water and breathing clean air and
Mhm.
and being completely immersed in the energy of the forest, and I think it's not just, like radio waves that we can't see. There's literally a living being underground that is the earth. When you look at the connections between the trees and the funguses and the mushrooms and the things that are growing, there's a lot going on under beneath the surface that's not beyond the veil. It's just below the dirt, and
And
from that,
crystals. Mhm.
yeah, crystals, all that, the
Mhm.
minerals, the magnetism, all of this it works together. You look at a little patch of dirt and you see how the ants and the bugs and the all the little microscopic universe, the things that happen in just a square foot of dirt. Now imagine that on a huge scale. It all works the same way. It's just big. It's so big we can't fathom it until
True.
you kind of get you can stand back and look at it. And I think the Sasquatch are really good at helping us to see the bigger picture of things, that it's not just our little square patch of ground where the world revolves around, that it's all connected, and it's all
Yeah.
part of one big system
Mother
that,
Gaia. Yeah.
yeah, take one piece out and it's not going to flourish, you know?
Hmm. Yep. Do you think there are rogue Sasquatches?
Oh,
That
probably.
there,
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
just
going to
because,
be,
go ahead.
well, there's going to be, in every type of being, there's going to be a few that, have some mental issues that are not healthy, that
Yeah.
have had bad experiences,
Yeah.
that are just
With the
not
hunters.
not yeah, that don't want to get along.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there are some bad of everything out there, but it's not necessarily that it's bad. It's there's dark and there's light. There's all the gray that's in between. There's the spectrum of of being for them, just like there is for us. Some of us are going to be monks and some of us are going to be, criminals. So
Hmm.
although I think that they have a lot less reason to be criminals, there's still going to be those mental conditions amongst them that are going to bring on things like that. So,
Yeah.
that they can heal themselves if they want to, but if they don't want to, well, then that's not going to be something that's going to happen for them. It's, they've got the same free will that everybody else does. So, yeah.
That's true. So I always thought, and I changed my thought on this after reading your book, that the red eyes are bad, but
Mm-mm.
you changed my mind on that with your book. Do you want to go touch lightly on that?
Well,
Oh,
I think it's just something, and when you're putting a meaning behind a color, you're
Barb, just a
taking
second. I
our
think you
thought
froze again.
processes.
Let's
Okay.
see. Um, Go keep talking. I can hear you talking though.
Um, yeah, so you can't just something as red and put just because it's that color that would
Okay,
just
hold on,
put on
Barb, just a sec, because you're going in and out.
okay.
Okay, I think I got you back. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, can you repeat
I'm
that?
back. Okay.
Yeah, you're back. Yay.
Okay. Just because something is red doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. They can make their eyes be whatever color they want. Um, Being red is probably just another form of communication. It's just something to catch your eye and say, "Hey, I'm here." But I've had the red eye glow on numerous occasions, and nothing bad or evil or dangerous or scary was associated with it. So
Okay.
I don't know what their particular meaning is unless they give you a some kind of information to go along with it. And I've never had
True.
that. So it's just a color.
And yeah, and Tom Cantrell, you put this in your book, said, "Don't place our human ideas onto Sasquatch."
Yeah.
So I
And
thought that
that's
was a really good.
one is thinking that the X means keep out. And
Does
you know,
does Yeah, what does the X mean to you?
to me the X is a sign of friendship. It's a greeting. It's a way to say hello, friend. And to humans, it's like the skull and crossbones. It's a danger. It's poison. It's keep out. And that's our human way of thinking. It's what we have put onto that, and as human beings, that's our general way of reading it. But that's not true for them. If you're out walking a trail and you see big X, you go to take a turn on the highway and there's a big X. You get up in the morning on the ground outside your tent or beside your
Yeah,
vehicle, there's an X. Those are
yeah.
those are greetings. Those are signs of friendship. So
Okay, good.
they're not going to give if they have they I don't even think they have a sign for we don't like you. That's just going to be a you know give you a reason to leave. They'll just scream at you, or just they'll just
I
leave
was
you
gonna
alone,
say,
or you won't even know they're
growl at you.
there. You know,
Yeah,
they'll just ignore you. So,
yeah.
and
And hieroglyphs. I've had a few of those that it's a strange way that the branches are positioned. I take pictures of them. And you've had a lot on your trails, haven't you?
yeah, yeah. They're, I think they're very individual messages. So
Yes.
when there's some people out there that think that, each one is like a letter of the alphabet or like a rune message, where
Mhm.
each particular positioning of sticks is going to have a particular meaning. And in some cases, I think that's true, like with the X. But a lot of times you go out there and um, you'll just see like certain sticks just laid out together. And when you're
Mhm.
going to interpret something like that, if you look at it and you get a total meaning comes to you, well, that's what it was intended for. If you're looking at it and going, I just don't get it, well, then it's not
Yeah.
meant for you. It's not a message for you if you're not grasping the meaning behind it. So not every glyph has a meaning for every person. Sometimes they're just very simple and very easy to understand, and other times they can be pretty intricate, and that's all
Mhm.
part of that personal journey. For me, when I told them that I wanted to learn about glyphs, I was raking up every single stick off the ground, every bit of twig, and telling them that I needed a clean slate so that I could understand. And
True.
they understood that. And now whenever
Yeah.
there's a very important message for me, it's got a clean slate. They've
Nice.
wiped the ground clean underneath it, so there is no mistaking this message is for me. And
Mhm.
they keep it simple.
Yep.
I get like 3 sticks in a row says there's 3 Sasquatches here. And that's
Mhm.
something that
Yep.
they have been repeating for me. I think it's the 3 that were part of the cloaker event, the
Mm. Oh,
the stuff that happened right around then that are growing up now. And
yeah.
um they'll give me signs in the yard. This last year when I went to the Blues, they gave me a sign to let me know that they were also over there.
Great.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, I know.
That's
They
great.
the 3 sticks that I get at the trailhead or in the yard. I got the 3 marks right here on my car, behind the handle after they
Oh,
stole my
really?
phone and put the phone
Oh,
back. They
wow.
stole it, they put it back, and then they marked my car, kind of like, "Ah, gotcha, it's us."
That
And
is
then they also left
awesome.
me a big old handprint too, so that was
That
nice of them.
I love those. I love when you show us the handprints because
Yeah,
they have kind of a greasiness to them.
yeah. Not always though. Sometimes,
No?
that's one of the weird things about their hands is, I guess it depends on the environment that they're in at the moment. If they just, ate a big greasy elk leg or just came out of the river, it's going to be a slightly
Oh,
different print.
true.
So, we've had some that are just greasy that, like people didn't realize they were on the window and they put the window down and it just made a big greasy smear. And then,
Oh,
there's other ones like the giant fingerprint. We watched it drying, and that was like that big
wow.
around. And
Wow.
while we're trying to film it, it's getting harder and harder to see on camera. And then we realized it's because it was drying. So the top half of the print was mostly just water on dust, but the lower half of the print had grease in it. So it became shiny. And yeah, and then we've also seen things where they'll make a print where their hand is so greasy that all the dust sticks to the grease and it makes a very clear print to see. But there's
Mhm.
also been times where it's like the print repels the dust. So you can see like around fingerprints, they'll almost be like a bare patch of paint because it's almost like
Oh,
static
I see.
electricity pushed all
It
the
moves it
dust
out.
away from it. Yeah,
Oh,
rather than collecting. So I'm not sure how that works, but we've
that's
we've found
interesting.
them both ways. Yeah. So,
Energy. Yeah. Have
mhm.
you ever had military approach you or come up to your home or in the woods around you?
Yeah. No, when we were camping in the Blues one time, there were a couple Forest Service guys stopped to visit, and one guy was really into Sasquatch and wanted to talk about stuff, and the other guy really wasn't. And then there was once stopped the guy that used to be our local game warden here in Greenwater. I had found some cougar tracks in the snow with kitten prints inside the mom's track. So I wanted to show him a picture of that. And there were a couple of state patrols that pulled up while I was talking to him. And the state patrols were also Barb Gabby fans that I discovered. So they were like, oh my gosh, you're talking Sasquatch. And then the game warden, he's sitting there and he's, kind of stern faced. And he's like, well, I'll tell you what, I know they're real. I've had 3 experiences and I have absolutely nothing else to say. So
all I need to know.
That's all I'm going to say. Okay.
That's awesome.
And also there was the one I got to tell you this because it's a favorite.
Okay.
When I was working at the store, I guess it was about 10 years ago, and there was the $1 Million Bigfoot Bounty. Do you remember that? It was a TV show. Actually. Okay. Well, I didn't. When it first came out, it was just something that I heard about, that they were offering $1 million for proof of Sasquatch. And it turned out it was going to be a TV show. But I was at the store one day, and 2 of the game wardens that were on that TV show, the game warden show on Discovery Channel, whatever. But the 2 of the guys came in, and they come up to the counter, and they're buying their stuff. And they didn't say anything. I just looked at them and said, "So, did you hear they're offering $1 million for proof of Sasquatch?" And they didn't say anything. They just looked at each other, made their purchase, and they're walking out the door. And as they're walking out the door hadn't closed yet. And the one looks at the other and says, "On your own time, on your own time." So I know they know things.
Yeah. Yeah. I do agree. Let's see. Let me just ask you one more question, and we're kind of getting at the end of the hour.
Okay.
Where, Barb, does your life lead you now?
Well, right now, I'm working some art projects. I'm trying to paint some of the things that I don't have pictures or videos of. Mm-hmm. And that's getting my head into the right space for writing the next book. The next book is going to be about things that happen when I go camping. And then just going to do some more camp outs this summer. And I'll be back out at the Sasquatch Summit again in the fall. Be doing the Packwood thing in June. So, yeah, whenever I get a chance to get out and talk about Sasquatch, I'm looking forward to doing that. And then...
yes. You're talking in some conferences, aren't you, coming up?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. Good. And
one day I'm going to meet you in person, Barb. I'm going to come.
I hope so.
Yeah, I need to get there. I really appreciate you making an effort to talk with me today, and especially you have to go drive around so you can have some energy bars. But I really appreciate all your work that you've done. You've inspired me and you've taught me. So I just want you to know that everything that you have done is not in vain, and it's for a purpose. And you're probably one of the ones that needs to bring out the beauty of the Sasquatch, not the negativity. You're not a hunter of them, but you're here to appreciate them and live alongside them. So I'm sure they appreciate you as much as all of us appreciate you.
Thank you.
So I thank you for your life journey on this. So keep going. Keep showing us great things.
I will. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. Stay with me. I'm going to end this and we'll have a little outro. And so stay with me so we can finish up on our own. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed Barb and us talking. And her book, I have it in the link below. It's on Amazon. Is it just on Amazon, Barb?
Yeah. If you send me a message, I can ship you a signed copy. Otherwise, you can get them on Amazon too. So, yeah.
Yeah, you told me that after I bought it. Can I ship my book?
It took me a while to get some of my own to sell.
No, I will have to bring it to one of the conferences you're speaking at so I can have it signed. So
that would be awesome. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. And next week, we have another good show with Preston Dennett. He's written over 33 books. He's a MUFON researcher, and he writes about all the stories of people that have been captured by UFOs. So we'll see you then too. So thanks, Barb.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye, everybody.